Hello everyone, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. I am in the process of making some swap cards for a small group that I belong to. And this is the card. And while I'm mass producing, I thought I would show you how I did this. So let me show you what we need for today. For cardstock, we need 3 pieces of Whisper White. This one measures 11 inches by 4 1/4 and scored in the center at 5 1/2. Layer number 2 is 5 1/4 by 4. Layer number 3 is 5 inches by 3 3/4. And I've already gone ahead and embossed it with the Woodland Embossing Folder. And I knew that I wanted one of my birds to sit on this big branch right here, which falls right in the middle. So I kind of centered my cardstock just like this when I embossed it, just so I would have that big branch. For other supplies, now I've gone ahead and done some of this ahead of time because, as I told you, I'm mass producing. The 2 little birds I hand cut. Those are from Swirly Bird right here. I stamped them in real red ink and then just fussy cut. The sentiment is stamped with old olive ink on a piece of vellum cardstock that measures 1 inch by 3 3/4. And I'm using the Enjoy the Warmth of the Season sentiment from Hearts Come Home. We had decided with our group that we were going to create winter cards and not have them Christmas themed. You need mini glue dots, one of the sprigs from the Pretty Pines Thinlits dies, and because I'm mass producing, I used the long one. I'm going to show you what I did with that. It just cut back on some of the cutting I had to do. Smoky slate, ink, and a sponge dauber. And here's my ink, stamping dimensionals. And then I went ahead and cut 2 more pieces of Whisper White. They're both 3 3/4 inches long. This one was 1 inch when I started with it, and this one was 1 1/2 inches. And I just took my paper snips and made little snowbanks. The only thing you have to remember when you line them up so that you can see the second portion. And snail adhesive and liquid glue. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is fold my card base in half, and then I'm going to glue the second layer. So this one would be the 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. So I actually have 3 layers of white plus the 2 snowbanks. So I'm going to put this aside. Now I'm going to bring in the embossed Woodland Embossing, and then I used a Post-it note with the ink and the sponge dauber. The first thing I did was ink all of the edges. You don't have to do the bottom part because you're going to be layering the little snowbanks on top, so you won't even see that. So do the 2 sides and the top. And this is with the smoky slate. Next, I added, I don't know if you noticed in my card, there's a little bit of ink on the right side of each tree. So it adds a little bit of shading and it really makes those trees pop. So I use a Post-it note. Now this one's already done because I did the edge. So now we're going to line this up, and you're just going to softly press down and create that shadow. You don't have to do the whole tree. I'm just doing the right-hand side. And then I move over to the next tree. So you can see how quickly this is. And you don't even need to re-ink your sponge most of the time. There's enough ink on there to finish up all of the trees. You can see how this really adds dimension to your trees. So that's all that's needed to sponge the edges. Next, I'm going to bring in the 2 snowbanks and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to sponge. Now this is the very top one. So this one I'm going to do all 4 sides. Now a little tip when you're doing multiples, what I did with this card is I cut 1 snowbank from each piece. And then I used it as a pattern and I cut like 2 at a time just by tracing that with my scissors. Okay, we don't need to do the bottom of this one because it's going to be covered. So now we're going to glue the larger one down first. I can't wait to see what the other girls are creating too. I'll probably post all of that on my blog so you'll be able to see them. Now we're going to flip this one over and add stamping dimensionals. So I added 3. I have ink all over my fingers. I've been working on these cards all morning. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of dimension there with the third one once I use the stamping dimensionals to pop them. Now I'm going to glue this in place again with stamping dimensionals. So this card does have a lot of height. So I'm going to add 5. And because we were, the theme was winter cards or winter fun, I stuck with all white just to remind me of the snow that we're going to be getting in the state of Maine. We usually get a lot of snow. Okay, so that's what the card looks like so far. Now I'm going to bring in the 2 little birds. And we've got the sentiment that was on vellum. A tip about vellum, I did these first for all 10 cards that I was making. I stamped with the old olive ink and I set these aside so they would dry because it does take longer for ink to dry on vellum. Now I'm going to bring in the little pine bow, and like I said, instead of cutting 3 different sizes with the 3 dies that come with this set, I'm just going to cut this in 4. And then all you need to do, let me move this so you can see, I'm going to take my scissors and just trim that at an angle. Okay, so there's 1, 2, this one's all set, and then the last one. So see how quick that was? So I really only had to cut 10 of these for my 10 cards, and then I snipped them all like this. Okay, now we're going to glue everything in place, and I'm just going to add the liquid glue. And I'm just adding to the bottom. And then 1 bird is going to be glued flat, and the other one is going to be glued with the stamping dimensional. The flat one is the one that goes up here on the branch. And now all I'm going to do is take these and tuck them under the snowbanks. I'm going to add 1 right there. And then add 2 here. This one is the smallest one, so I'm going to add that right here. And the 4th one. And then this is the bird that has the stamping dimensional on it. It's going to sit right with the pine bows. And the last thing we have left is the vellum. And of course, most times when you use glue dots, they will show through. But what I did before I glued, I added this right here, and I could tell that if I added the glue dots where the lettering is, they wouldn't show. So I'm going to add 2 glue dots right where the shading is. And then I'm just going to line this up under the bird to make it look like he's sitting on the sentiment, and press this down. And that's it. That's how quick this card was. Isn't that cute? So I hope the girls will like my swap card. I'm going to have this on my blog, and I will have pictures of all the other cards that the girls, what they give me when we swap. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.